My name is Glenn Crabtree. I'm the Safety Section Captain with the Mesa Fire Department. Today on the Incident Review, we'll be looking at a near miss. Every year across the United States, numerous firefighters experience significant air emergencies. During the past 15 years, over 100 firefighters have died from asphyxiation inside structures. We must take the time to understand what equipment, training, and operational changes can and should be made to better arm our firefighters who operate in these IDLH environments. Near-miss investigations is one important tool that will help us understand what changes need to be made or where training may be needed. It is important to break down near-miss investigations and provide feedback to all department members. This close analysis may make the difference for another crew. Like a good football coach who takes the time to read film and understand his strengths and weaknesses, we must make the same effort. The near miss we're sharing with you today is probably not any different than one that has or could have happened within your own department. The incident you're about to witness was a working house fire that started in the garage and extended to other parts of the house. The firefighters, Bill Daniel and Bob Luby, are both seasoned with 7 years of experience and work on a very busy ladder company, Ladder 204.
Ladder 204, Engine 204, Engine 203, Engine 273, Engine 202, Battalion 201, Channel 2. Alarm company called, reference the fire alarm going off at the dispatch location. Our police spoke with homeowner, said house was on fire. We do have a passerby, rising flames shooting out of the garage.
We were just north of the incident having dinner and got dispatched for a structure assignment. When we got dispatched, we were coming out of the building that we were in and immediately noticed that there was a header. So we pretty much knew right away we had a working fire. We are on a ladder company, and one of the first thoughts going through my mind was the fact that on a ladder company, typically we're not first in, but it did appear on this structure we would be first in.
As we responded to the incident, it appeared that we were definitely going to be first on scene. Hopped off the truck. My firefighter partner, Engineer Bill Daniel, who happened to be right in the back with me that day, pulled the line because that was the side of the truck. He was closest to the fire.
Ladder 204 is on scene. We have a single-family residence. We have heavy fire and smoke showing. Ladder 204, good command. Command should be mobile. We're going to the interior for search and rescue. We do not have a water supply established. Accountability being Ladder 204. We will be establishing high-risk. What are the offensive strategies?
I was on the nozzle, so I was extending the hose line with some help from the acting engineer, and Bob was getting some tools and getting in position so that we could go interior. Once I got the hose line extended, we got it charged. It took a little bit of time, but we got it charged, and we initially, as far as the conditions on the structure, like I said, we had a fully involved garage. The smoke conditions, we had pretty heavy smoke from the attic space. It seemed to be fairly pressurized. And looking in the front door, which actually happened to be open when I got to it, smoke level was about chest height, and it was pouring out of the front door at a fairly decent amount. Anyhow, at that point, I went in, met up with Bob, and we went into the structure. He was able to get a quick primary all clear.
Got a primary all clear on the living area immediately as we entered the front door. And then off to the left, there was a kitchen area, and then there was like a dining area. And in the back, there was some double doors and an Arizona room. As we were advancing the hose, I noticed that there were several people out in the backyard all wearing bathing suits, running around, pretty excited about the fact that their house is on fire. I called command, told them that we had some people in the back and that they needed to be evacuated. I was concerned that one of them may re-enter the structure.
There's approximately 4 people in the backyard all wearing bathing suits. Copy, are they safe back there? That's affirmative, but if we can get a crew to evacuate them, that'd be great. We're working on the primary all clear. Let's go on the interior.
We had a garage fire. We were going to work our way to the back to the garage door and start our attack from there. We immediately when we went in the structure, went to the left side, looking for a door that would have been in the dining room kitchen area. We're unable to find a door to the garage at that point, so we extended the hose line to the rear of the structure, beyond the kitchen, and there was another hallway that went off to our left. That hallway was fairly narrow and involved a lot of doors from what I recall, like to a pantry, maybe to a laundry area. So we made our way down that hallway until we ran into another wall, at which point we made a left. We did run into some problems with shagging hose at this point. So Bob went back to try to get some more hose and so we could get it around some of the corners. And at this time, the crew from Engine 204 was joining up with us, and they were able to help us shag some hose. At that point, we made our way down the hallway. It was probably about 10 feet, at which point we found the door to the garage. The only way I could tell, at this time, the conditions have gotten worse.
We had some difficulty advancing the hose around the multiple turns, and while we were doing that, Engine 204 came interior with a captain and a firefighter, and they assisted us with advancing the hose around the corner a little bit. Bill indicated to me that he needed some assistance getting the door open.
Smoke level was down to the floor from what I could tell. We had made it to the garage door, and the only way I knew it was the garage door is because the handle had been burned off and I could see flame through where the handle used to be. I tried to force the door at that time, and when I forced the door, we started to get a little bit of fire involvement in the hallway. Knocked that down. Bob went to grab an axe that was right at the end of the hallway, and he grabbed the axe and he started working on actually gaining entry into to the garage so that we could start our firefight.
And there was sufficient flame impingement on that door that it was like sinking an axe into styrofoam. The door somewhat crumbled. Bill said that he was ready, and I stuck my hand in and forced the door open, and conditions went from moderate to very bad very quickly.
The door opened. Again, conditions were pretty bad at this time. I couldn't even tell that the door was open. He just basically told me he had it open and kind of put me in position where I could see that we had a fully involved garage. We had the nozzle open at this time, started fighting fire, and we really didn't have enough water at that time. It was just a lot of fire, and the hose line we had was insufficient to make much of a difference on this fire.
Flame rolling over us. Bill did an excellent job knocking that down. And at that point in time, we were joined by, I was under the impression that it was the two crew members from Engine 204, but apparently one of those crew members had exited the structure at that point in time, and I was unaware of that. And right around that time frame, we heard that Engine 203 had also entered the structure. So we maintained that position. We were dealing with the fire rolling over, and at one point in time, it rolled over us sufficiently that we needed to back up.
It essentially flashed or rolled over on us pretty good at such a level that we couldn't even knock it down with the hose line. So we retreated back about 10-15 feet, and the involvement of the hallway subsided, and we kind of repositioned ourselves back at the door, regathered our bearings, and kind of got together. At this time, my vibrate alert started going off. I was, already thinking that this fire may be going defensive at this time anyhow, just because of the conditions and the fact that our hose line wasn't making any difference on this fire.
Do not send any additional crews interior. Copy. Do not send any additional crews interior. What is your condition and need? We have heavy fire involvement in the garage. We have low visibility, high heat. We do need to ventilate. We need an exhaust hole for the garage.
We've been interior for a little while. Bill indicated to me that his vibrate alert had gone off and that he needed to exit the structure, and at exactly the same time my vibrate alert went off.
So the two of us turned to the Captain Bourgeois and let him know that we were going to be exiting the structure because our bottles were getting low. And at that time, I knew exactly where we were in the structure. We knew how we got there, the hallways we had taken to get there, and knew our location was right at the entry from the house into the garage. So it was simply, once I told Bob we were leaving, and once he told Captain Bourgeois that we were leaving, I turned around and started exiting the structure. At some point, I didn't grab the hose line only because I knew where we were in the structure and I had no doubts of how to get out of the structure. Unfortunately, at some point, I thought I was turning down the hallway, and it turned out that I had bypassed the initial hallway that we had taken to get in position to fight this fire. So when I did make my right-hand turn to leave the structure, I actually ended up in a bathroom at that time.
So I kind of looked up and I saw Bill up ahead of me. He wasn't that far ahead of me, but I kind of made an effort to catch up with him, and at that point in time I lost the hose line and was completely unaware that I'd gotten off the hose line. What apparently had happened is a later arriving crew had found the door to the master bedroom, which I completely missed in my primary, and opened that door. So what I thought was a wall was in fact an open bedroom door. I walked right through it without knowing it. And the layout of the house was, if you walk directly from the garage straight through the house, you come to a sliding glass door. And so I walked straight to that sliding glass door, was tripping over a desk chair, and I had tripped over some desk chairs in front of that Arizona room, so I knew that I was at the back of the house, but I thought that I was in a different room, and I wasn't exactly sure how I'd ended up where I was, but I came directly to that sliding glass door and then took a right because I was under the impression that that was how to exit the structure in the manner that we had come in, and there was a wall there.
At this time was 0, and I had no idea that I was in a bathroom. Ultimately, I ended up stumbling into a shower, a sunken shower down about 2 feet. When I did that, I managed to knock off my face piece and my helmet. Fortunately, I was able to get them back. And the shower that I happened to stumble into actually had a fairly substantial window. And so once I saw that window, I knew that I was disoriented as far as I didn't know exactly where I was in the structure. And I knew that this wasn't the path that I had taken to get into the structure. I had just made the decision that I needed to get out of that window.
It was the wall that separated the master bathroom from the master bedroom. I certainly wasn't going to walk away from an exit to the structure. Opened that door, stepped out, and was looking around to see where Bill was, because I knew that we were relatively close to each other because I had seen him just moments earlier, or so I thought.
I stood up, tried to break the window a couple of times, was unable to do so, and actually fell again, stumbled again. At that point, I was actually preparing to call for emergency traffic. When I reached for my radio, just getting ready to call for traffic, I actually grabbed my pass device instead, and just kind of that brief hesitation, made me think, you know what, I just need to get myself out of the structure. I stood up, I turned my bottle to the window, and turned my bottle thinking I would just use my bottle to break the window out. So turned my bottle to the window, basically lunged backwards into the window.
And again, I certainly didn't realize that he was in a bathroom or having some of the difficulties that he was having. So I walked over and struck the window high with my axe, right at exactly the same time Bill was making an effort to break the window with his bottle.
When the window broke, I kind of came tumbling out of the window, and actually once I made it out, I realized that Bob was already out of the structure, and he was actually on the other side of the window, essentially helping me. And it turned, fortunately, we were both okay. And at that point, we just gave a report to command, let them know we were out of the structure, and just took a little bit of time to gather our thoughts and get ready to do what we needed to do.
Lessons learned: all houses have master bedrooms, and I gave a primary all clear without ever entering a master bedroom.
There's always a lot of lessons to be learned in this. The key thing for me is, even though I knew exactly my position in that structure, and I to this day I knew exactly where I was, and I knew the layout of the hallways as far as how we got to the garage. Because of the conditions, I knew the conditions were deteriorating fairly rapidly, and that we were dealing with a lot of fire. And I had low air and zero visibility. I should have used a hose line, just grabbed the hose line. It was there. There's no reason for me to let go of it. and exit the structure without using the hose line. The other lesson learned is, both Bob and I looked at each other and we said we were leaving the structure, and we assumed we were leaving together. What it appears happened is that I left several seconds before Bob did, as he was giving his report to Captain Bourgeois, which was enough, a few feet was enough to separate us where we had zero visibility and we couldn't see each other anymore. And just because of the conditions we were dealing with, and because of the fact that we were both low on air, we probably should have been a lot more diligent about sticking together and going out as a pair rather than one following the other.
Fundamentals of firefighting, you don't get off the hose line, especially when visibility is really bad. Since we ended up essentially being interior for several minutes before we were joined by any other crews, I should have absolutely grabbed the thermal imager camera, and that, I believe, would have helped us with a whole lot of our visibility issues. But also, always stay with your partner, and I'm glad that Bill and I stayed relatively close to each other.
It probably would have been nice to have some kind of forcible entry tool, like now I'll carry something that in my turnouts, that if I'm ever in a situation where I've lost my axe or somebody else has taken it, that I can still break a window, start forcing a door. Certainly there's just tools I wish I had at that point. I mean, I'd love to have had an axe at that point and broken the window myself to make it a lot easier on myself rather than trying, unsuccessfully several times to break that window. My mindset essentially was that if I didn't get out of the structure, I was going to die in the structure. It's an eerie feeling once you're disoriented and you realize you're disoriented and you try to find your bearings, but you can't because nothing as far as the surroundings you're dealing with jive with what you remember as far as coming into the structure and the layout that you have in your head. And as soon as you make that wrong turn, it's essentially instantly that you realize you're lost and that you either need to find a way out of the structure or call Mayday. And the choice I took at that point was to find my way out of it, knowing full well that I might have to call for emergency traffic if I was unable to find a way out of the structure. As far as calling a Mayday or not calling a Mayday in my case, I don't know really why the reason is that I didn't call it. At the point where I knew I was disoriented and needed to get out of the structure, my mindset wasn't get on the radio and give a Mayday report and let them know that I was lost and disoriented. It was, and it was a very short period of time. I mean, from the time where I realized that I was disoriented and lost to the time that I left the structure was probably only a couple of minutes. Had I not been able to break the window on the attempt I was making with my bottle, and when Bob broke it with his axe, I probably would have made the Mayday report at that point. I just think I was trying to exercise all my options before that. And I didn't feel like, since I was disoriented, I didn't feel like I'd be able to give an accurate report of my location in the structure to make it a situation where I could just sit there and wait to be rescued. I felt like it was in my best interest to just get out of the structure.
Again, I'd like to thank Bob and Bill for sharing their experience. It's been over a year. Many changes have taken place since their near miss. Within the department, there's been an increased emphasis placed on air management through self-awareness. Other changes include new SCBAs with 45-minute cylinders and the ease in which firefighters can monitor their air. Last, one of the most important areas within air management that we're currently working on is it is not acceptable to be in an IDLH environment with your low air alarm sounding. This must be a priority for fire commanders and sector officers. I would like to thank you for joining us on the Incident Review.